So I think that social media can be a double-edged sword. I think that disseminating messages and communicating with people through like Facebook groups, um, meetup groups, blast email contact lists, tags, meta tags, search engine optimization. I think that those same tools that help us get information out can also hurt us. If you think about trolling, people can disrupt your meetup group, they can disrupt your Facebook group, they can just bombard you with horrible, horrible, unproductive tweets on Twitter. So as you're trying to reach this group of people on these tools, it's also interesting that those groups of people that are opposed to you can also use these tools and disrupt your communication flow. I worked for Missouri's government, state government, and I was responsible for creating and executing a social media strategy for the Division of Workforce Development. And in that time, the approval process to get content on social media accounts was really difficult. There was a lot of red tape. I often found that the approval process of getting detailed information on these social media sites would take days, sometimes even weeks. And in the social media world, speed also can be a double-edged sword. So it would take a long time to get information on there. People are circumventing the process of getting through all of that red tape of approval. And they're circumventing that process by posting more general content on social media. But again, that can be a double-edged sword, because if you are the official social media site of an embassy, of a government agency, your credibility is high. People are going to go to your site when they want factual, detailed information. And so if you're being really general, let's say in a crisis or some type of catastrophic event, and you're just speaking in general terms, that damages your credibility. That damages the way people view you as a source. And so then also social media has a lot of different forms. I mean, what's popular in the US, like Facebook and Snapchat, is not necessarily popular in China, which is not necessarily what Russians are using, which is not necessarily what Nigerians are using or Ghanaians are using. And so you have all these different platforms. One of my classmates mentioned this. You have all these different platforms that are sending different messages, and you don't have to be on all of them at the same time as an official government agency. I wouldn't recommend that, but I would recommend that PD officers use whatever popular social media site is number one in the community or the country that they reside in. And they kind of, since they already have their feet on the ground, they understand what's going on, so they can respond quicker. Now, with that has the caveat of, you need to say that these are my opinions, these are my own opinions, these don't necessarily reflect X, Y, and Z, even though you are an official for the State Department. I feel like everyone should put that tag on there, because if you're responding in real time really fast and you're seen as a credible source and everything like that, but you might get a detail wrong, it doesn't damage the credibility of the agency, and it really doesn't damage you at all, because you can say, that's something that I thought at the time, but let me go back and check and get that information with you. It's like working with reporters, actually. But something I also want to mention is, in this week's readings, we learned about social media as a communication tool, but what the readings really pushed on us is that social media is kind of the tool that happens last when you're putting the nails in the coffin. So, for example, the Arab Spring in Egypt and the social situation in Tanzania, those incidences were the result of emotional, political, and social unrest. The thought process of, we are aggravated by the system that's oppressing or hurting us, and so we're going to structure ourselves so that we can restructure the system. Those decisions are made prior to using social media. It doesn't ignite the reaction from the public. It just facilitates what's already being in place. And so I think social media is the excuse me, the last nail in the coffin and not necessarily the body that we're trying to bury, if that makes sense. I definitely think that social media needs to be embraced as a technology, but there's a strategy to do it. I don't think that everybody who is working in the embassy needs to be on social media. I think that people who are more inept or more connected to a certain group should use certain types of social media. But that really happens in the strategy and the dissection of audiences when you're looking at an entire country or a population that you want to influence.